House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 3, The Burning Mill. No spoilers for the future of House of the Dragon, but if I do, I'll warn you first. Hey, the tapestry was updated. Now we get to see the death of Jaehaerys in animation, as well as all the ratcatchers being hanged. Despite certain events that unfolded in Season 1 Episode 9, Rhaenys Targaryen does still have a brain. She makes a point that history won't even remember the single moment this war started. Was it when the Hightowers usurped Rhaenyra's throne? Was it when Rhaenyra the Cruel sent assassins after a toddler? Or was it when one prince killed another on their dragons? Or did it start even earlier, when Luke took Aemon's eye? The war has been festering for decades. Maybe someone should have done something about it, Viserys. Rhaenys says the starting point won't matter once lust for blood takes over. But there is another way. Negotiate a peace with Alicent Hightower. This foreshadows the ending of the episode. I am very smart. But it's a little weird how Rhaenys praises King Jaehaerys here. That's the man who decided 2 separate times not to name Rhaenys his heir. To avoid bloodshed in 101 AC, they called a great council and let a man be king. To avoid bloodshed now, Rhaenys' advice is to talk with Alicent? Does Rhaenys actually want to disrupt the patriarchy, or is she still in her that is the order of things phase? Rhaenys never gives a plan for how the war can be avoided. She just says how awful it will be, and maybe Alicent has the power to stop it, which obviously she doesn't. So I don't know. Oh look, it's the worst thing I've ever laid my eyes on. After Aeryk's and Eric's deaths, and Harold Westerling's departure, Aegon brings his Kingsguard back to 7, thereby forfeiting the traitors Laurent Marbrand and Steffon Darklyn. Technically there are 9 Kingsguard now, and I know which 3 are the worst. In Small Council, Aemon fidgets with the coin he found last episode, a reminder that he feels guilty he was not in the castle to stop Blood and Cheese. We're told Lord Samwell Blackwood died at the Burning Mill, the intro battle between houses Blackwood and Bracken. We saw Willem Blackwood kill Gerald Bracken in episode 4, some 15 years ago. Before the Burning Mill, Davos Blackwood taunts Aeron Bracken, and Bracken is killed once more. We also see Blackwood laying dead. So now that Lord Samwell and Davos are dead, who will become Lord of Raventree Hall? There is a character called Benjicott Blackwood, or Bloody Ben, who many people thought this guy named Davos was. So I hope Bloody Ben and his sister Black Alysanne will appear soon. Lord Commander of the Hand of the Kingsguard, Criston Cole, gives his battle strategy. He will take a small army from King's Landing and turn houses in the Crownlands sworn to Rhaenyra over to Team Green. Aemond and Vhagar are to remain home, so Aegon says he will join Criston on Sunfire. But Aemond tells him they cannot risk the king's safety. I interpret this as Aemond goading Aegon to prove his valor. Aemond wants to provoke Aegon to join the fight, where hopefully he will die so that Aemond can become king. Because remember, now that Aegon's son Jaehaerys is dead, Aemond is the heir to the throne.
I'm next in line to the throne.
Rhaenyra says that Seasmoke has grown restless lately. We saw him fly over Adam of Hull last episode. He was ridden by Laenor Velaryon until he fled to Essos, but that was years ago. Why is Seasmoke restless now? It could just mean that he senses war, just as Rhaenyra mentions later on. Or maybe Laenor has died somewhere in the east, and Seasmoke grieves for his rider.
Thought you might still be rowing.
Or maybe it's hinting that Laenor will return, that he's near Dragonstone. Probably not, but Seasmoke wants for a human on his silvery back. I absolutely love the plot they've given Rhaena. The dragon twins of Daemon Targaryen are excellent characters from Fire and Blood, but Rhaena is given a mission in the show that's a worthy invention. First, Rhaena is to take young Joffrey and younger Aegon and Viserys to Lady Jane Arryn in the Eyrie. When Jace flew there off-screen before the season began, he promised her dragon protection in exchange for the Vale support. Instead of a fearsome adult dragon, Rhaenyra is giving her a baby dragon, Joffrey's Tyraxes. Then, Rhaenyra wants Rhaena to take little Aegon and Viserys even further, to Pentos, where Rhaena herself grew up at Prince Reggio's estate. Instead of flying a dragon into battle, Rhaena is asked to be the mother to these little boys that Rhaenyra cannot be while she fights a dangerous war. Even cooler, Rhaena is tasked with safeguarding 4 dragon eggs. If this civil war in Westeros really goes to shit, and King's Landing and the Dragon Pit, and Dragonstone and the Dragonmont are all blown to hell by the Targaryens, Rhaena will be in charge of the last remaining dragon princes and dragon eggs. The future of House Targaryen has potentially fallen upon Rhaena's shoulders. This entire time, Rhaena has felt useless for not riding a dragon, but it's because she doesn't have one that Rhaena is being tasked with this mission. Very neat. One of the most infuriating things about Game of Thrones was the showrunner's utter disinterest in the weird magic and esoteric sorcery from the books. All of Daenerys' dragon dreams, and most of her House of the Undying visions, were cut. Shade of the Evening was essentially cut, Jon Snow's warging was cut, glass candles were cut, etc. So it's awesome that Daemon swoops past the Isle of Faces, where the ancient mythical race of green men dwell amongst the Weirwood trees, and enters the ruins of Harrenhal, which is famously haunted. A bunch of bats fly past Daemon, which might be a reference to the future. 100 years from now, House Lothston will hold Harrenhal, their sigil being a black bat. One such Lothston is going to be Mad Danelle, an alleged sorceress who allegedly used giant bats to capture misbehaving children, and cooked them.
I'm claiming Harrenhal.
Apparently so.
You are maidenless.
This lady is Alice Rivers, the supposed bastard daughter of Lionel Strong, but everyone agrees she looks too young for her age, so she might bathe in blood and practice sorcery to maintain her youth. She was probably the one who caused Daemon's acid trip, which I shall analyze post-haste. Daemon enters a room to the sound of Rhaenyra humming a song, but it's young Rhaenyra from Season 1, the willful spirit that creepy Uncle Daemon was initially attracted to. Last episode, he's fed up with adult Rhaenyra's hesitancy for fire and blood. But this is the Rhaenyra who confronted him on Dragonstone all those years ago. The girl who followed him into the city for a night of danger. The girl who challenged him to kill the Kingsguard and steal her away to Dragonstone for a defiant marriage. She holds the decapitated body of Prince Jaehaerys, the boy Daemon sent assassins after in episode 1. Rhaenyra says Daemon is always coming and going, and she's left to clean up afterwards. Daemon leaves King's Landing to occupy Dragonstone, which Rhaenyra has to clean up to avoid bloodshed. Daemon comes back to the city in episode 4, but leaves Rhaenyra in that sex club, and she's left to clean up alone. Now Daemon has caused blood and cheese, and it's Rhaenyra's reputation being ruined. She's once again left alone to clean up Daemon's reckless behavior, which I think is what Daemon is realizing in this vision. It takes a ride on the magical school bus in Harrenhal for Daemon to finally feel remorse, but he'll keep that locked up and never admit wrongdoing out loud. Alice Rivers appears in the yard and tells Daemon, "You will die in this place." She lures him to a weirwood tree, where the old gods are looking through at all his bad deeds. Will the old gods watch Daemon die at Harrenhal? If you want that spoiled for you, go elsewhere. In the books, Ned Stark believed it's impossible to lie in front of a heart tree, so pay attention if Daemon ever speaks near it. Everything he says may be the truth. He's not good at telling the truth. He just got done lying to Rhaenyra in Dragonstone. Maybe she'll travel to Harrenhal and get some truth out of him there. Alicent's brother and boy toy team up to gather an army. Both Criston Cole and Gwayne Hightower faced Daemon Targaryen at the tourney in episode 1, so Gwayne might remember how good of a fighter Criston is, the only man who could take down the rogue prince. Although, he does sprinkle in a little old-fashioned racism against Dornish folks.
No one is more delighted than I to march out to war with the Dornishmen.
Or is this xenophobia? Hard to tell.
Sir Criston.
So, Gwayne, welcome to King's Landing.
Sir Gwayne, our company is camped back yonder.
On the cold, hard ground.
Aegon gets fitted for his new suit of Valyrian steel armor. Valyrian steel is the richest and rarest metal in the world, so it makes sense that Aegon says this suit of armor actually belonged to Aegon the Conqueror. It's a hand-me-down, just like his crown and his sword and his name. It's awesome we get to see something the Conqueror might have worn atop Balerion the Black Dread, and I think it fits this Aegon nicely. It's just a little underwhelming for the Conqueror. I hope he gets much cooler armor for the upcoming Aegon's Conquest series. Besides Harrenhal and the Rhaena stuff, this continuous one-take shot of Ulf entering the Cock Inn is extremely awesome. And the inn's name is quite fitting, because oh boy, that's a whole lot of penis that I cannot show on YouTube. Ulf claims to be the son of Balon the Brave, Viserys and Daemon's father who died of appendicitis. If this is true, it must have been after Balon's sister wife Alyssa died. Despite the incest, they had an extremely close, loving marriage. Can you guess how Alyssa died? Afterwards, Balon was understandably depressed, and even more understandably, he turned away his 15-year-old sister Visera, who climbed into his bed naked one evening. But if Ulf is telling the truth, Balon must have gotten over it, had sex with a common woman, and produced this dragon seed named Ulf. In case you were still wondering who the better ruler for Westeros would be, Aegon and Aemond are both spending an evening inside a brothel. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra parts with her own little babies for their safety and ensures the future survival of House Targaryen and their dragons with Rhaena. While the boys are having their fun, Rhaenyra is being a mature and rational grown-up. We, the audience, and they, the lords of Westeros, can still choose who we think is the rightful ruler. After all, both Aegon and Rhaenyra have solid claims. That's kind of the reason the war is happening. Aegon is the eldest son of the king, and by all customs and traditions, he should be the king. Rhaenyra is the eldest child of the king, and was specifically chosen by the king to be his heir. But nothing was codified into law, something we can blame both Viserys and Jaehaerys for. So even though Rhaenyra would make the better ruler, there are many who will fight for Aegon. No law equals no rightful claim. War will decide who gets the throne instead. Rhaenyra poses as a Septa and sneaks into King's Landing with Sir Steffon Darklyn. Convinced by Rhaenys that war between dragons will be too bloody to justify, Rhaenyra tries to find peace with Alicent. She says a bloody war is looming, and only Alicent can stop it. Once more, I am confused.
I'm a bit confused.
Which charges confuse you?
Does Rhaenyra expect Alicent to be able to convince Aegon to give up the crown? Or is Rhaenyra over the throne and ready to prioritize survival, and will let Aegon keep it as long as Alicent can convince them not to fight? Either option is ludicrous. 2 sons have already died. Rhaenyra already hates them for stealing her throne. She said so this very episode. Much of the realm believes Rhaenyra to be a kinslaying child murderer. A battle in the Riverlands has already happened. Daemon parked his dragon on Harrenhal. So why the hell is this conversation happening? What is Rhaenyra actually trying to accomplish here? Rhaenyra does learn that Alicent was telling the truth about believing Viserys' heroin-fueled final words. But Rhaenyra knows he was referring to Aegon the Conqueror, not his own son Aegon. It's honestly ridiculous that Alicent thought Viserys would ever think about his own son.
Aegon! The Conqueror.
Yeah, Alicent needs to crack open a history book. At this point, there have been at least 7 Aegons. If only Westeros had YouTube. Regardless, Alicent says it's too late to avoid war and walks away. So Rhaenyra, affirming her own belief that Viserys saw it in her to ensure the Song of Ice and Fire, is finally disconnected from Alicent once and for all, correct? No more friendship stuff? They're enemies now? For realsies this time? I think so, and I think Rhaenyra is finally ready to unleash the dragons. She and Alicent are the final 2 people in Westeros to accept that war is inevitable. It's been inevitable since Aegon was crowned. Well, I guess Rhaenys is still denying it. Let me know what you loved or hated about the episode down below. Nuance is for 8th grade book reports. Come back next week for more if you want. Goodbye.